In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the inner tie rod ends on this Nissan Juke. These are going to be located behind the front wheels attached to the steering rack. Let's get into it. I'm going to remove the wheel, use a 21mm socket, take the lug nuts off. This one has a wheel lock. Take that off. And take the wheel off. I'm going to loosen up the jam nut. Use a 17mm wrench. Just get it loose. That's good. We're going to take this nut off. Use a 14mm socket. You can use different front end tools to separate the tie rod end from the knuckle. I'm just going to use a hammer and just give it a tap. There you go, separate it. We're going to take the tie rod end off. We're going to count the threads. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Write that number down somewhere. I'm using some locking pliers. Just tighten those up right there. With a 17mm socket, take the jam nut off. Take that off. Remove the pliers. Using some hose clamp pliers. There's a clamp right here. Just squeeze that clamp. Take that off. We're going to take the bellow boot off. There's a clamp on the inside. I'm just going to use a straight pick. Just get in between where the crimp is. Just spread the crimp. Once you spread it, you should be able to grab the boot. If it twists, then it's loose enough. Spread it a little more. Grab the boot, pop it off. There it is. There's the clamp. Now before we put the inner tie rod tool in, we're going to use some locking pliers as close to the tie rod as possible. And just lock those on. That's good. You want to hold that while you're loosening the tie rod so you don't damage the steering rack. Now I'll take the adapter for the inner tie rod removal tool. Get this lined up. We're going to hold the locking pliers while you loosen up the inner tie rod end. There we go. Once you get it started, normally it's pretty easy. Take that off. There it is. Take the new inner tie rod end, get that started. All right, that's down. Get the tool on with the right adapters. Get that lined up. Holding the locking pliers, you want to tighten that tie rod end up. Make sure it's snug. Once it's snug, about another 10 degrees. That's good. You take that tool off. Now take the tool off. Take the adapter off. And the locking pliers. I'm just going to take a little grease, just right there, where the little notch is in the tie rod. That's good. Now take the boot. We're going to use a wire tie instead of the clamp. Just put that around the boot. Slide that in place. Make sure it goes over the rack. And use a pick. Just going to get this around. There we go. Make sure that's all the way around. Good. And if you want to, you can reuse the clamp if you didn't break it, but a wire tie will work fine. Get that lined up. And we'll tighten this down. And with it tight, just trim the excess. Now we'll put the clamp on. That lined up. Push that in place. Just going to pull the boot out a little bit. Get this lined up. There we go. And slide the boot into place. Right there, where the notch is. That's good. Put the jam nut on. The outer tie rod in. Get this started. And you want to count your threads. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Move the jam nut closer to the tie rod. We'll get this lined up in the knuckle. Get the nut started. I'm just going to use a pry bar, just pry up underneath the tie rod, just to put a little pressure so we can tighten the nut down. And the other side of the pry bar is on the control arm. Use a 17mm socket. And we'll tighten this down. Snug that up. And torque this nut to 25 foot-pounds. That's good. And we're going to tighten up the jam nut. Just snug that up. And if you can torque that with a torque wrench, you want to torque that to 31 foot-pounds. Put the wheel on. Lined up. Put the lug nuts on. And snug those down. Now we're going to torque the wheel down to 80 foot-pounds in a cross pattern to tighten the wheel down evenly. Just go around again, double check. If you have a wheel lock, make sure you take that off. After finishing this installation, it's important to have an alignment done on your vehicle.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.